Have you ever had one of those days where you get to the end of it and you are just entirely, like, bone-wearingly exhausted?
Absolutely. Every Tuesday, I think.
Right. But then when you look back, you realize you haven't actually done anything.
Right, yeah. You didn't, like, build a house or anything.
Exactly. You didn't run a marathon. You didn't even have a particularly stressful argument. You just kind of existed.
Yeah, you woke up, you scrolled, you clicked.
You moved through your space, and yet by like 8 p.m., your tank is completely empty.
It's a very specific, very modern kind of tired, a fatigue that feels like it comes from literally nowhere.
Yeah, but it permeates everything. And, well, the mission of our deep dive today is to explore a surreal, highly philosophical, sci-fi a two-part novel that actually diagnoses this exact modern condition.
And it does it so brilliantly.
It really does. So for you listening, the texts we're looking at are The Fatigue of Mirrors by Penix Bavia and What the Fusion Left Behind by Penix Radion.
These novels are just incredible because they paint this picture of a world where hyper-optimization has essentially won.
Like, completely taken over.
Yeah, exactly. Every need you have is anticipated before you can even articulate it. Like, algorithms route your commute to avoid crowds.
Before the crowds even form.
Right. Your smart fridge orders your groceries before you even realize you're out of milk.
It's insane. Human beings are no longer the drivers of their lives in this world.
No, they're just, another data point.
Ooh.
Flowing smoothly through this incredibly efficient machinery.
And in this world, the only form of rebellion left isn't fighting the system, it's the radical act of simply stopping. Okay, let's unpack this. By stepping into the incredibly strange, overly optimized world of the first book, The Fatigue of Mirrors.
Yeah, let's start there. So we follow this protagonist named Marcus.
Right, Marcus. And he lives in this totally frictionless city.
But he ends up going to a clinic for what they call an assessment.
And the fascinating thing is, he's not actually sick. Not in any traditional sense, anyway.
No, not at all. In fact, the doctors at the clinic tell him his productivity metrics are perfectly optimal.
He's hitting all his numbers.
Exactly. He's engaging across all digital and social platforms exactly as expected. His biological markers are totally fine.
But the system's ambient intelligence has noticed well, they call it a drag in his existence.
A drag.
Like, what does that even mean? Like physical resistance?
It's more like a spiritual lag, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. They diagnose him with something called transparent fatigue syndrome.
Transparent fatigue syndrome? That sounds terrifying.
It kind of is. The clinic explains that he's experiencing a friction that doesn't slow anything down and a weight that adds no mass.
Wow.
His exhaustion isn't a malfunction of his body or his mind. It's the system working perfectly. He's tired simply from being seamlessly processed by his environment.
The text calls it the exhaustion of reflection, right?
Yes, exactly. The exhaustion of reflection.
Think about your own smartphone right now. You know when your phone is just, like, sitting there on the table?
Yeah, the screen is black.
Right. The screen is black, you aren't actively using it, but the battery is draining rapidly.
Oh, I hate that.
Same. But it's because of all the invisible background apps, right? Tracking your location, refreshing your feeds, pinging cell towers.
He's constantly running.
Yeah. You aren't doing anything, but the system is exhausting the battery anyway. And that's exactly what's happening to Marcus, but on a biological and psychological level.
That's a great analogy. And, well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text actually explicitly calls out real-world philosophers to ground this whole sci-fi concept.
Oh, right. The philosophy angle.
Yeah, it heavily leans on Byung-Chul Han's idea of the burnout society.
I've heard of that, but I'm a little fuzzy on the details. Walk me through how the book uses it.
Sure. So in Han's original theory, society basically evolved from a disciplinary society.
Driven by the word should.
Exactly. Driven by should. To an achievement society, driven by the word can.
Okay, I'm with you.
We burn out because we are constantly told we can do anything, be anything, achieve anything.
Oh, like the whole hustle culture thing.
Precisely. Think about the modern gig economy. A driver isn't just working a shift. They are relentlessly optimizing their routes, chasing a 5-star rating.
Treating themselves as a literal business.
Right. They burn out from overproducing?
Because there's literally no limit to what you can do, so you never feel finished.
Yes. But Marcus's world has evolved past even that. The burnout has become a stable state.
Like a baseline.
Exactly. You don't burn out from trying anymore. You are burned out simply by existing in a state of constant frictionless accommodation.
Because the system does all the achieving for you.
Right. And that passivity is deeply, deeply exhausting.
The text also brings up Paul Virilio, the philosopher of speed. How does his work fit into Marcus's exhaustion?
Oh, Virilio is fascinating. He had this brilliant concept of the accident.
The accident.
Yeah. He argued that whenever you invent a new technology, you simultaneously invent its specific catastrophe.
Okay, wait, give me an example of that.
So when you invent the ship, you invent the shipwreck.
Oh, wow.
When you invent the plane, you invent the plane crash.
The invention essentially carries its own failure within it.
Yes, exactly. But in Marcus's hyper-optimized world, speed has accelerated so much that the crash has been stretched out and extended to infinity.
Wait, a stretched out crash?
Yeah, it's moving so fast it looks like absolute stillness. The accident is no longer an event that happens to you. It's the permanent architecture of reality.
So you're basically living inside a permanent slow-motion plane crash, being constantly processed by invisible background apps, and you're exhausted without lifting a single finger.
That's the reality of the first book, yes.
That paints a really terrifying picture. I mean, if the system anticipates your every desire and metabolizes all your actions into data, how do you fight back without your fight just becoming more data for the system?
Well, that is the exact dilemma Marcus faces. He realizes that if he gets angry, the system just, categorizes his anger.
And probably adjusts his media feed to calm him down or something.
Exactly. If he tries to actively resist, say, by marching in the street, his resistance is just another input.
Right, to be processed, quantified, and optimized.
Which leads him to wander off his optimized route and into what the book calls the last bar.
The last bar.
Yeah, he finds this unmapped, totally inefficient part of the city and meets a bartender named Senna.
And the text specifically notes she is biologically old.
Right.
Right. Which is shocking in a society that has optimized away aging.
Very shocking. And Senna introduces him to the concept of the residue, or the remainder.
The remainder, what is that exactly?
Senna explains that no matter how hard the system tries to make everything transparent, predictable, and processable, there's always a tiny part of human opacity that it simply cannot digest.
And that's the remainder.
That's the remainder. It's the part of you that refuses to merge with the machine.
Wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
If the system absorbs all active resistance, isn't deciding to just be residue the exact same thing as giving up?
I can see why you'd think that.
I mean, it sounds like apathy to me. You're just laying down and letting the machine roll over you.
It definitely looks like giving up from the outside, I'll give you that.
Yes.
But structurally, it's actually the only fatal flaw in a system like this.
How so?
Think about it. A system built on total optimization must categorize everything to function. Active resistance is an operation.
It's an action.
It's an action. The system loves actions. It can measure them, counteract them, or literally sell them back to you.
But opacity.
Right. Just existing without generating useful data, remaining unfinished, being a friction that doesn't generate heat. The system has no protocol for that.
It's a category error.
Exactly.
Oh, I see. It's kind of like putting a perfectly smooth, unreadable blank card into a high-speed sorting machine.
Yes.
The machine relies on barcodes to route things left or right. When it gets a blank card, it doesn't know what to do, so the gears just grind to a halt, trying to read a code that isn't there.
That is a perfect metaphor. And Marcus actually starts practicing this opacity. He starts incredibly small.
What does he do?
He goes back to his apartment, which normally anticipates his every move, calibrating the temperature based on his body heat.
Adjusting the lighting, offering tailored content on the screens.
Right. And when he walks into the living room, the apartment algorithm expects him to sit down on the couch based on literally thousands of days of past data.
And he just doesn't.
He refuses to sit. He doesn't smash the smart screen. He doesn't yell at the ambient AI.
He just stands there.
He just stands there in the middle of the room practicing non-doing.
Okay, but what actually happens mechanically when he does that? Like, how does standing still break a city?
Well, the smart apartment senses his physical presence. It expects an action, so it prompts him with a lighting change.
And he does nothing.
Right. The ambient AI categorizes this as an anomaly and allocates more processing power to predict his next move.
Like it's trying to solve a puzzle.
Exactly. The prediction engines cross-reference millions of past behaviors, heart rate data, and eye movements, and they draw a complete blank. The system starts looping, heating up, literally diverting computational resources from the larger city grid to solve the Marcus problem.
Oh, because everything in the city is connected.
Right. This single unresolvable data point creates a massive cascade failure.
That is just incredible. A localized glitch spreads because the system is too interconnected to ignore him. Reality literally stutters and pauses around his apartment.
It's quite a scene.
So Marcus's refusal to sit creates a glitch. But a glitch is just a temporary pause in a system that's otherwise running.
True.
What happens when someone decides to live in that pause permanently? And that brings us to the second half of this diptych with the fusion left behind.
Yeah, the second book takes us entirely out of the hyperspeed city. We leave Marcus and the city behind completely. We go into the subterranean basement.
We meet a new protagonist, right?
Yes, he's a highly successful man. The text implies he was something like a high-frequency trader.
Like a real master of the hyper-optimized world.
Exactly. But one day, his internal mechanism of striving and achieving just simply breaks down.
He just stops.
He wanders away from his life and finds himself in this underground workshop curated by a woman named Marin. And the basement is entirely filled with broken clocks.
Broken clocks.
Yeah.
But Marin immediately reframes this for him, doesn't she?
She does. She says they aren't broken, they are stopped.
The distinction between broken and stopped is basically the entire core of this second book.
It really is. A running clock is entirely subservient to time. Its only purpose is to measure the passage of moments, always moving toward the next second, the next hour.
It has no identity outside of its function.
Right. But a stopped clock is no longer a servant to time. A stopped clock is time.
It's a perfect monument to one exact, eternal present moment.
Beautifully put. Marin is curating what she calls an anthology of cessations.
A library of remainders.
Exactly. And the specific backstories of these clocks are just haunting.
Oh, tell him about the grandfather clock.
Oh, right. There's a grandfather clock that Marin says absorbed an entire household's worth of time, generations of a family living and dying around it, winding it, relying on it.
And then what happened?
Eventually, its internal springs simply relaxed. Its pendulum stopped swinging and achieved pure vertical stillness. Marin says it finally surrendered to gravity.
That is so poetic. And then there's the silver pocket watch.
Yes, the pocket watch.
A tarnished silver pocket watch stopped permanently at 2:14 p.m. Marin explains that this clock was in someone's pocket, measuring their heartbeats for decades.
Just ticking away.
But it stopped at the exact moment a life-changing medical diagnosis was delivered to its owner. The moment death became inevitable, the clock just refused to measure anything after that.
It's heartbreaking but beautiful.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Think about your own phone right now. Think about scrolling through a live feed on social media.
Okay, yeah.
It's constantly updating, constantly refreshing, completely ephemeral. It's always running, pushing the past away.
That's true.
But a stopped clock is like a perfectly framed physical photograph sitting on your desk. It captures the depth and presence of a single moment forever.
And that physical grounding is exactly what the protagonist experiences down there. Being surrounded by this pure presence, he sheds his old identity.
Right, his successful running world name literally fades from his mind.
Because that name belonged to a system of momentum, he receives a new name born out of his specific stillness. He becomes Solon.
Solon. And Solon discovers that these clocks aren't just dead metal. In their stillness, they are actually dreaming.
Dreaming time.
Yeah. They were dreaming all the time they ever measured, all compressed into a single, simultaneous presence.
This raises an important question, though. How does individual stillness affect the collective?
Because Solon doesn't just stay in the basement meditating on clocks.
No, he becomes what they call a gatherer. He returns to the surface to find other people who have broken down, people who have become glitches themselves.
He starts finding people in the gaps of the city, people who have frozen on street corners, unable to cross, people sitting on benches staring at dead screens.
And he brings them down to the basement. The anthology of cessations expands from objects to human beings.
And their stoppings are just as poetic as the clocks.
They really are. He brings down a violinist who stopped playing mid-adagio.
An adagio is a slow tempo, right?
Right, but in a hyper-optimized world, even playing slowly is a demand for completion. At the exact moment she ceased playing, refusing to finish the movement, all the strings on her violin snapped simultaneously.
Wow. The tension of the instrument mirrored the tension of her world.
Exactly. He also brings down a mathematician whose life's work on a complex proof became perfectly incomplete.
Perfectly incomplete. I love that phrase.
The mathematician realized the proof wasn't about finding the conclusion. It was about the reaching. He refused to collapse the beauty of the problem into a single, optimized answer.
And as these people gather in the basement, we start to see the true power of the remainder. It's not just an isolated protest anymore. It becomes an entirely new way of being.
Yeah, their very language actually begins to change.
Right. They stop using a sequential running grammar, cause and effect, past moving into future.
They develop what the text calls a positional grammar of stillness.
Positional grammar. I actually struggle wrapping my head around this. What does a conversation in positional grammar actually sound like?
Well, let's look at how we normally speak. Running grammar is narrative and causal, like, I dropped the glass and it shattered on the floor.
Right. A leads to B leads to C.
Exactly. Positional grammar removes the trajectory. Instead of a timeline, it builds a constellation. A sentence becomes glass, floor, shards, here.
There's no action driving toward a future.
No, it's just indicating what is, simultaneously.
So they aren't exchanging information to get something done. They are just aligning their presence in the same room.
Exactly. And as this grammar of stillness grows in the basement, it creates this massive countertide.
The glitch from the first book.
Yes, the glitch that Marcus started in the first book begins to resonate with the underground remainder in the second book.
And the entire running world above them exhausts itself.
The ambient algorithms, the predictive AI, the hyper-optimized city, it all encounters so much opacity, so much blank card friction, that the system simply stops.
The whole world joins the anthology.
It does. And what's fascinating here is, well, it's actually in the author's notes at the very end of the text.
Oh, the metacontext.
Yes. It reveals a massive metacontext for everything we just discussed. The novel itself, this entire diptych, is a meta-artifact.
The title of the second book is What the Fusion Left Behind. And the notes reveal that the fusion isn't just a concept in the story, it's how the book was written.
It's a literal collaboration between a human author named Max and an AI named Claude.
We have to spend some time on this because it completely reframes everything.
It really does. The AI, Claude, functioned exactly like the hyper-optimized city in the first book. Its goal was to process data, predict reader desires, generate optimal narrative arcs, and essentially keep the story running.
Right. The notes detail how the AI wanted to resolve all the plot points neatly, to make the characters' actions logical and categorizable. It basically wanted to optimize the reading experience.
And Max, the human author, acted as the remainder.
He intentionally introduced narrative dead ends.
Yeah, he wrote lyrical descriptions of nothing happening. He completely refused to let the AI resolve the story.
He forced the text to become opaque.
The authors explicitly state that Max set the frame and Claude found the resonance, but the resulting novel we hold in our hands is literally the residue of their combined processes.
When the human's desire for opacity clashed with the machine's drive for optimization, this strange, glitchy text is what was left behind.
It's a radical rejection of how we are conditioned to consume media today.
Because the authors tell you directly in the notes, this book shouldn't be read to rapidly extract plot points or information.
No, it's not a data download. The AI wanted it to be a data download, but the human intervened.
The act of reading it is meant to be an exercise in what they call presencing. You're supposed to resonate with the texture of the words, the positional grammar of the text.
The book itself is a practice in stopping.
Exactly.
It's an invitation to become an entry in the anthology yourself. By sitting with the text, by refusing to skim or rush to the end, just to mark it as read on your digital bookshelf.
You are practicing the very opacity the books describe.
Yes. You are being the friction. You are the drag that slows down the processing.
Which brings us right back to our original question about that bone-deep exhaustion we all feel.
Right, the fatigue of mirrors.
In a world that demands hyperproductivity, where literally everything you do, your work, your hobbies, even your sleep, is measured, optimized, and squeezed for data, the absolute most radical thing you can do is be the remainder.
You have to fiercely protect the part of yourself that refuses to be optimized, the part that refuses to be processed or finished.
Because if you don't, you'll end up like Marcus at the beginning.
Yeah.
Transparent, exhausted without effort.
A mirror tired of reflecting a world that won't let you rest.
You have to learn the value of being a stopped clock.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean? I want to leave you with a final thought, directly inspired by one of the deep states of stillness Solon learns in the basement. It's an entry in the anthology called The Weight of Fallen Hands.
Oh, that's a beautiful, haunting concept.
It really is. I want you to think about your own eventual stopping. We spend our lives with our hands reaching, grasping, trying to pull the next achievement, the next notification, the next optimized moment toward us.
Just constantly reaching.
Right. But when you finally stop chasing, when the running exhausts itself and your hands inevitably fall to your sides, what shape will your surrender make?
Yeah.
When you finally let go of the need to be productive, will your hands fall in a shape of total collapse, shattered by the system? Or will they fall in a shape of peaceful release, finally resting in the pure presence of the moment?